सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। We will chant all the 31 verses that we have seen together. सर्ववेदान्त सिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। जन्तूनां नरजन्मदुर्लभमतः पुंस्त्वं ततो विप्रता तस्माद्वैदिकधर्ममार्गपरता विद्वत्त्वमस्मात् परम्। आत्मानात्मविवेचनं स्वनुभवो ब्रह्मात्मना संस्थितिः मुक्तिर्नो शतजन्मकोटिसुकृतैः पुण्यैर्विना लभ्यते। दुर्लभं त्रयमेवैतत् देवानुग्ररहेतुकं मनुष्यत्वं मुमुक्षुत्वं महापुरुषसंश्रयः। लब्ध्वा कथञ्चिन्नरजन्मदुर्लभं तत्रापि पुंस्त्वं श्रुतिपारदर्शनं। यस्त्वात्ममुक्तौ नयतेतमूढधीः सह्यात्महा स्वं विनिहन्त्य सद्ग्रहात्। इतः कोऽन्वस्ति मूढात्मा यस्तु स्वार्थे प्रमाद्यति। दुर्लभं मानुषं देहं प्राप्य तत्रापि पौरुषं। वदन्तु शास्त्राणि यजन्तु देवान् कुर्वन्तु कर्माणि भजन्तु देवताः। आत्मैक्यबोधेन विना विमुक्तिः न सिद्ध्यति ब्रह्मशतान्तरेऽपि। अमृतत्वस्य नाशास्ति वित्तेनेत्येव हि श्रुतिः। ब्रवीति कर्मणो मुक्तेः अहेतुत्वं स्फुटं यतः। अतो विमुक्त्यै प्रयतेत विद्वान् सन्न्यस्तबाह्यार्थसुखस्पृहः सन्। सन्तं महान्तं समुपेत्य देशिकं तेनोपदिष्टार्थसमाहितात्मा। उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं मग्नं संसारवारिधौ योगारूढत्वमासाद्य सम्यक् दर्शननिष्ठया। सन्न्यस्य सर्वकर्माणि भवबन्धविमुक्तये यत्यतां पंडितैर्धीरैः आत्माभ्यास उपस्थितैः चित्तस्य शुद्धये कर्म न तु वस्तूपलब्धये वस्तुसिद्धिर्विचारेण न किञ्चित् कर्म कोटिभिः सम्यग्विचारतः सिद्धाः रज्जुतत्त्वावधारणा भ्रान्तोदितमहासर्प भयदुःखविनाशिनी अर्थस्य निश्चयो दृष्टः विचारेण हितोक्तितः न स्नानेन न दानेन प्राणायामशतेन वा अधिकारिणमाशास्ते फलसिद्धिर्विशेषतः उपायादेशकालाद्याः सन्त्यस्मिन् सहकारिणः अतो विचारः कर्तव्यः जिज्ञासोरात्मवस्तुनः समासाद्य दया सिन्धुं गुरुं ब्रह्मविदुत्तमं मेधावी पुरुषो विद्वान् ऊहापोहविचक्षणः अधिकार्यात्मविद्यायाम् उक्तलक्षणलक्षितः विवेकिनो विरक्तस्य शमादिगुणशालिनः मुमुक्षोरेव हि ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा योग्यता मता साधनान्यत्र चत्वारि कथितानि मनीषिभिः येषु सत्स्वेव सन्निष्ठा यदभावेन सिद्ध्यति आदौ नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः परिगण्यते इहामुत्रफलभोगविरागस्तदनन्तरं शमादिषट्कसम्पत्तिः मुमुक्षुत्वमिति स्फुटम् ब्रह्मसत्यं जगन्मिथ्येति एवं रूपो विनिश्चयः सोऽयं नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकः समुदाहृतः तद्वैराग्यं जिहासाया दर्शनश्रवणादिभिः देहादिब्रह्मपर्यन्ते ह्यनित्ये भोगवस्तुनि विरज्य विषयव्रातात् दोषदृष्ट्या मुहुर्मुहुः स्वलक्ष्ये नियतावस्था मनसः शम उच्यते विषयेभ्यः परावर्त्य स्थापनं स्वस्वगोलके उभयेषामिन्द्रियाणां सदमः परिकीर्तितः बाह्यानालम्बनं वृत्तेः एषोपरतिरुत्तमा सहनं सर्वदुःखानाम् अप्रतीकारपूर्वकं चिन्ताविलापरहितं सा तितिक्षा निगद्यते शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य सत्यबुद्ध्यावधारणा सा श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिः यया वस्तूपलभ्यते सम्यगास्थापनं बुद्धेः शुद्धे ब्रह्मणि सर्वदा तत्समाधानमित्युक्तं न तु चित्तस्य लालनम् अहङ्कारादिदेहान्तान् बन्धानज्ञानकल्पितान् स्वस्वरूपावबोधेन मोक्तुमिच्छामुमुक्षुता मन्दमध्यमरूपापि वैराग्येण शमादिना प्रसादेन गुरोस्येयं प्रवृद्धा सूयते फलम् वैराग्यं च मुमुक्षुत्वं तीव्रं यस्य तु विद्यते तस्मिन्नेवार्थवन्तः स्युः फलवन्तः शमादयः एतयोर्मन्दता यत्र विरक्तत्वमुमुक्षयोः मरौ सलिलवत्तत्र शमादेर्भानमात्रता मोक्षकारणसामग्र्यां भक्तिरेव गरीयसी स्वस्वरूपानुसन्धानं भक्तिरित्यभिधीयते Swatmatattvanusandhanam bhaktirityapare jaguhu. Right. So we have seen 31 verses so far, and I have received lots of questions on these topics that we have seen. So one by one I will take those questions and I will answer also. I may not give elaborate answers. So if something is still not clear to you, please let me know through the same link so that I can answer further. Now let us go. First question is, please explain more on running behind what is urgent, we forget what is essential. So this is in context to the spiritual life, the spiritual practices that are essential for us. We are born as a human being, and the goal of all human beings is to realize oneself. It is the essential goal, but we keep that as the last priority. What do we say? No, let me first study, let me finish my college, then we will see. Then we get married and let me have family life, then we will see. Let me earn money, then we will see. Isn't it? And whatever we think is urgent, we forget what is essential. So in that context, it is said that running behind what is urgent, we forget what is essential. Balastavat krida saktaha, tarunastavat taruni saktaha, vruddhastavat chinta saktaha, parame brahmani kopina saktaha. Bhajagovindam, Sri Shankaracharya says in Bhajagovindam that when we are children, we are attached to play. When we are young, we are attached to opposite gender. When we are old, we are attached to worries. You know, what will happen now? But we are never attached to the Supreme Brahman, which is essential. So that is the meaning of running behind important or urgent, we forget what is essential. I remember I had given an example that if you are going on a trip somewhere, filling petrol is essential. You cannot say that we will see. First important thing is leave at the same time and reach. But to reach to your destination also, filling petrol is essential. So don't forget the essential. In a day, just as you have time kept for everything, you must also have time kept for spiritual sadhana. It is a must. That is the context. Next question. Is firm abidance in Brahman different from liberation? Why is liberation said to be more rarer than firm abidance in the self? Because I had understood both to be the same. So this is second verse, no? Isn't it? The last two steps, if you see, step number 8 and 9, Jantunam, Narajanma, etc., 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 Brahmatmana samstitihi muktihi. Two things were said, right? Why are they separated? Are they different? No, we generally in this context we say being established in Brahman itself is liberation. We say that, true, right? But the context can be of Videha Mukti. Then it will be a different step. The Mukti can mean both Jivan Mukti as well as Videha Mukti, isn't it? Then Brahmatmana Samstitihi and Videha Mukti will be at two different places. One way of answering. Also, you see, the 9th step is actually the goal. Mukti is actually goal. So, is there anything else that I need to do between 8th and 9th step? No. Brahmatmana Samstitihi, once it happens, once we are established in Brahman, rest of the things we don't have to do anything. Goal will be automatically reached. So, in that context, both are same. But in the context, if we take it as Videha Mukti, then it may be different. Hope that is also clarified. Next. Moksha means dukkha nivritti sukha prapti. That's what I have understood. What is that liberation from birth and death cycle? It is same. Mukti or moksha is same. In Vedanta, how do we say? Atyantika dukkha nivrittihi paramananda praptischa moksha. Right? That total annihilation of all sorrow and attainment of supreme bliss itself is liberation. Now that liberation itself in another way is explained as liberation from the cycle of birth and death. But you understand, the both are same definitions, because cycle of birth and death is the cause of sorrow. So when it is said here that total annihilation of all sorrow, it is understood that it is freedom from the cycle of birth and death. But then why it is defined like this? Because when it is defined as freedom from the cycle of birth and death, sometimes some people get feeling that mukti happens after death. Means what? I won't be able to enjoy it here, but I will not be born again. Whereas Vedanta says, no, you will be able to enjoy that freedom here. Jivanneva muktihi is possible. While living itself, it is possible. Therefore, it is defined in such a way. And once you are liberated while living, of course, you are free from the cycle of birth and death. You will never be born again. Samsara is ended. Okay. So, both mean the same. Right. Next. God's grace. Question is about God's grace. While it is available equally to all and operating all the time, is it not specially earned by one's self-effort or purushartha or invocation? In other words, self-effort has to be there to gain His special grace. Is this understanding right or wrong? So the question is about grace. See, grace is available at all times to all equally. What is the role of our self-effort or purushartha or invocation? The more we put efforts, more we understand the grace. Careful, grace is there. But our self-effort or invocation, when we pray, oh Lord, please bless me. What happens by this prayer is, when actually something happens, we understand that it is by God's grace that it has happened. If we don't put that effort, anyways it is happening by God's grace only, but we will not recognize it. So that is the role of self-effort or purushartha or invocation, prayer, etc. in grace. Right? Please understand this. Grace is like the rain we had seen, if you remember. Grace is like the sunlight available to all. If you close the windows and curtains, you will not get the sunlight. What does it mean? Is the sunlight gone? No, no, no. You are not experiencing it. Heat is there and you are sitting far from that heat. Then you will not get. You go closer to it, you will experience it more. It doesn't mean that it is not there. It is there. You will experience it more when we recognize. How will we recognize? By putting efforts. By invoking the grace. By Purushartha. So that is the connection between Purushartha and Ishvara Kripa. Next. Please explain the meaning of Vinihantya Sadgrihat, verse 4. Sahi Atmaha Swam Vinihantya Sadgrihat. What is the meaning there? So, the context I don't have to say. Labdhva Katanchin Narajanma Durlabham is the verse 4. No? So, somehow you have got this Narajanma, Tatrapi Pumstom Shruti Paradarshanam. And even after gaining this, if you don't put efforts to gain liberation, then what? Such a person, Saha, he, indeed, Atmaha, kills oneself. How? Swam Vinihanti. Swam means oneself. Vinihanti, destroys. How? Asat Grahat. By holding on to what is unreal. Earlier also, in the context of Viveka, we have seen Brahman alone is real. Everything else is unreal. Knowing that Brahman is the goal of our life. Having gained this human life, if we don't try for that goal and if we hold on to asat, hold on to unreal, hold on to impermanent pleasures of the world, we will be called as Atmaha, those who commit suicides. Okay, so that is the meaning. Sahi Atmaha Swam Vinihanti, kills oneself, destroys oneself, Asat Grahat, by holding on to what is unreal. Next question is actually about what Sanskrit dictionary can be used. So there are different Sanskrit dictionaries, and always the issue is if you have big words, if you put them as it is in the dictionary, you will not get anything, because like that Sanskrit dictionary cannot be made. So you need to understand the grammar to put the correct word in Sanskrit dictionary also. The one that I am using is called Color Dict. Is the Sanskrit dictionary that I am using, but I am sure many such Sanskrit dictionaries are possible. Best way is to understand little bit of grammar, so that it will help us in deciphering the word ourselves, and then whatever small word is formed, that we can understand from the dictionary. Okay, please go through Chinmay International Foundation's website also. You will see number of Sanskrit courses. 2 more Sanskrit courses are starting next weekend, on Sandhi and etc. So please see, and you can be benefited by that. Next question. In verse 15, could you please clarify the term Atma Vastunah? So the line is Ato vicharah kartavyah jidnyasor Atma Vastunah. Atah, therefore, vicharah kartavyah. This is the last verse of the topic of what we say, Dharma Marga Parata. No? We saw Pravritti Marga and Nivritti Marga, and that last verse was this, that Ataha, therefore, Vicharah Kartavya, inquiry should be undertaken. Atmavastunah Jidnyaso. Jidnyasoho means by the person who has desire to know. Jidnyasu means one who has desire to know. Desire to know what? Atmavastunah Jidnyasoho. One who has desire to know the self. That is the meaning of Atmavastunah Jidnyasoho. That's how you have to connect. Atmavastunah means of the reality of the self. Jidnyasoho means desire to know. Desirer to know actually. So one who has got desire to know the self should undertake inquiry. That is the meaning. Ataha vicharaha kartavya. Next. If and when I reach knowledge of the self, how do I know if I am getting there? It is a very intimate personal experience. You will know it by yourself. You don't need someone else to tell you. But there are always methods by which we can check whether what we have got the knowledge is correct or not. One of the best methods is Mahatmas. You meet them, because Mahatmas, like scriptures, are mirror. You meet them, you understand about yourself. That's the beauty of being in company of great Mahatmas. No? We are there in some time also with some great person, great Mahatma. We understand what is lacking in ourselves, what we should correct in ourselves, and how to do that. Everything we understand. So there are ways to do that, but don't worry. When we reach there, we will know it. Nobody, no other means, mind, etc. need not tell us whether we have known it or not. Okay. Till that time, keep walking. Okay. Sometimes before that also we may feel, I think I have realized. Be careful. It may be mind playing tricks on you. Okay. So just because mind says I have reached, don't be under any kind of delusion. Keep looking into your mind. You will know whether you have reached actually or not. Next verse. Next question. In the verse 8, the use of the word sun after Sukhaspruha in the first line is not clear. Though Santam in the second line refers to Deshikam as an adjective, why sun used in the first line? Please do explain. The word sun many times is used in the meaning of being, B-E-I-N-G, being of this type. For example, here if you see, Sanyasta Bahyartha Sukhaspruha Sun. Sun there means being of this type, becoming like this, then something will be there which will come after that. In English also we say, no, I, being the teacher, should teach. I, being a teacher, should teach. When I say like this, aham, if you translate it in Sanskrit, then that is where the use of word sun will come. So sun, sa complete and na half, is used in the meaning of being. Being spruha. Now you see the whole compound. Sanyasta bahya artha sukha spruha. One who has given up the longing for the pleasures coming from the outside objects. So that compound word is talking about a person. So sun says, being of this nature, being such a person, then the meaning will be clear in the remaining. So sun word is used in the meaning of being. Of course, sun can be used in the meaning of santa also, but that will be in a different way it will be used. Okay. So don't worry about that. Santaha is a different way only it will be used. Next, in the verse 9, to raise the Atman, which is as though covered by ignorance or avidya, one has to neither have attachment to sense objects nor to actions and has given up all desires, called Yogarudha, should then establish in Samyak Darshana. But in this, what exactly is the meaning of Samyak Darshana? Okay. So verse is 9, Yogarudhatvam asadhya Samyak Darshana Nishtaya is said there. Yogarudhatvam asadhya Samyak Darshana Nishtaya. There Samyak Darshana means right vision. Samyak, right. Darshana, vision. What is the right vision? Right vision of one reality in everyone, everywhere. That's the meaning of Samyak Darshana Nishtaya. By being established in this kind of vision, then something will be explained. Yogarudhatvam asadhya. Becoming Yogarudha. Ascending on the yoga. Ascending on the yoga means what? Being completely equipped with the sadhanas that are required, then one should take up vichara. That must be the context, right? That is the meaning. Samyak Darshana means right vision of oneness, that there is one Brahman alone, there is nothing else other than Brahman. That Samyak Darshana is that right vision. Next, in the verse 10, Yatyatam refers to strive, but what does Upasthitaihi refers to? Present or available or some other meaning. I understood Atma Abhyasa, which is established, which is explained by Sri Vidyaranya Swamiji's Panchadashi verse, but not Upasthitaihi. Exact meaning here in the context, please clarify. So, Yatyatam Panditaihi Dhiraihi Atma Abhyase Upasthitaihi. That is the line from verse 10. So, here Upasthitaihi means by those. Upasthitaihi Tritiya Vibhakti Bahuvachan. So, by those who are ready. Upasthita also means available, present. We say Upasthit, I am present. Presenti, etc. used to be taken in that way in the olden times also. I am available, I am ready, I am present. Ever engaged, that's the meaning. Atma Abhyase Upasthitaihi means what? One who is ever contemplating on Atma Abhyasa, on the self. That's the meaning of Atma Abhyase Upasthitaihi. It should be connected together and explained together. Don't separate out two things. Atma Abhyase Upasthitaihi together. So, Panditaihi, Dhiraihi, Atma Abhyase Upasthitaihi, Yatyatam. That's the way the meaning has to be taken. Next. What is the difference between ego and pride? Are they required in the path of spiritual journey? Ego word in common parlance is used synonymously to pride. This person has got a lot of ego. What we mean is this person has got pride. In Vedantic context, if you see, ego is aham vritti, the I thought. Whereas pride, abhimana, we say, or darpa, means what? Considering yourself bigger than what you actually are. That is called as pride. You understand the difference, okay? So ego in that context is ahankara. We use the word ahankara also. So ahankara here in Vedantic context is that I thought. And pride is over considering yourself to be more than what you are. That is called as pride. Now, are they required in the path of spiritual journey? They are actually obstacles to be removed in the path of spiritual journey. Both pride as well as ego. Pride needs to be removed initially. Ego has to be removed finally. Okay? Only when this ego, ahankara, drops off, that is when we realize the self. But please also understand, it is required. See, on spiritual path, every single thing that God has given us is required. Every single thing means, if God has given us mind, it is required. God has given us intellect, it is required. God has given us ego, that is also required. Sometimes, it comes to our ego or pride, and then we say that, I should study, okay? I should study. You understand? So sometimes all that is required. Why? Because it is God's creation. Everything is useful. Right. Next question. You said get rid of longing by not getting affected by it, whether it comes or goes. How to get rid of such longing like TV and addictive series, etc. Is it unwise to completely stop watching because watching even once brings back the longing to see more and more? However, sometimes thought of watching a little bit comes again, but the fear of falling into the same cycle stops me from even starting it. Is this the correct way of handling longing? Else, please guide the way. See, longing always starts with once doing, and then we say also, but I am doing only once now. एक बार करने से क्या होगा? Once only I am doing it. That's how it starts. Be careful. What you are thinking is right. If you do it once, you want to do it again. So it's better to stop at one, before one, not at one, before. Before you do it only, you say, no. If I do once, then I will do it again. So better to do that. That is one way of doing. Second, what we say, correct way of doing it is, you grow out of it. Now what is happening is, you are tempted, but you are stopping yourself, which will, that control will not last long, because the pressure of wanting to do it is a lot, isn't it? Best thing is to understand that there is nothing in that TV channel. What am I going to see? The moment you start getting a feeling for that, now it is done, I don't want to watch. Then what? Then no pressure, no efforts you have to put to do that. Now the question will be, how will I grow out of it? Gurudev says very nicely, when you want to negate something, you have to negate ruthlessly, he says, and then substitute wisely. So now if you are wasting time in watching TV, serials, etc., now substitute it with something better. What is that? Listen to some spiritual talks. Now what will happen by that? It is still giving something for the eyes and ears to do, but it is better than the serials which will give you nothing. Substitute wisely. But remember, substitute wisely is said. Otherwise, to get rid of one habit, we will form another worse habit. That is not the way we should substitute. Okay. To stop the TV, now I started watching the same thing in my mobile. No difference only then. No, but Swamiji, at least from big screen I have come to small screen. That is worse. Big screen is better. It is far. It will not trouble your eyes more, and neck also will not pain much. Now in the mobile, then your neck also will. Substitute wisely. Substitute with something which will not harm you, but actually will help you in the spiritual path. Okay, that is the way. But what you are saying is correct. Stopping it, even not doing it even once, is the best way. Why? Because you do it once, then you want to do it again. Right. Next, the highest result an action can give is Chitta Shuddhi. After gaining Chitta Shuddhi, right enquiry has to be done. So, isn't enquiry also an action? And enquiry is giving something more than Chitta Shuddhi, that is knowledge. Knowledge is not effect of enquiry. How do I explain this? See, enquiry we can consider as an action. For example, now you are gaining knowledge, isn't it? I am talking, you are listening, you are gaining knowledge. Isn't it an action? It is an action, no? You are hearing. Hearing is an action. Now, knowledge is gained by reflection. Now, what you are gaining is information. Now, you will say, but reflection is also mental action, isn't it? But that is like gaining any other object. For example, I want to get my watch. So, I walk up to the table and get the watch. Now, this action I have performed and I have gotten watch. This is the result of action, you can say. But actually it is not result of action. Result of action is what? If I have done that action with Karma Yoga attitude, I will get Chitta Shuddhi. That is the best result of action. If while doing this I have done something wrong, I have stepped on some ants, etc., Papa I will get. That is the result of action. If I have done it right, if it is my duty, I will get Punya. That is the result of action. Gaining an object may look like result of an action, but is actually not result of an action. Not result of that action. Let me put it like this. Gaining watch is of course result of action, but result of my past action. Prarabdha is what is coming now as this object that I have gained. Similarly, knowledge. But when it is said that the highest result that action can give is Chitta Shuddhi, we are talking in what context? We are saying that action gives rise to result called Punya and Papa. Either good action will give rise to Punya or a bad action, wrong action will give rise to Papa. Better, greater than these two is the result of Chitta Shuddhi. We are not talking about gaining something which action is performed for that and we are gaining that. We are not talking about such kind of result. Understand, two things are very different. It may look as though this is the action, this is the result of action. It may look like that, but there is no linear connection. The result that we are gaining is result of all the actions that we have done so far up to this moment. That is what is resulting in this gaining. Now, it may be gaining outside object or it may be gaining of knowledge. But when it is said Chittasya Shuddhaye Karma, we are talking in context of Punya Papa. The result which is higher than Punya Papa is purity of mind. And that is the highest result that an action can give. Okay? Hope the point is clear. Next. Action cannot give liberation. Only through enquiry one can attain it. Isn't enquiry also an action? Similar question. You see, we say Shravana Matrena Jnanam Bhavati. That knowledge is gained by listening, enquiring. Vichara Kartavya was said, isn't it? You listen first, then you do enquiry so that the knowledge becomes yours. Now, is the enquiry not an action? It is an action. Nobody is saying no. But knowledge is not result of that action. That is the point that I want to tell. See, every single thing in that way is an action. That's why sometimes it is said also, gaining knowledge is also an action. Gaining knowledge is an action. That's how we say. But what is meant there is the knowledge which will give me mukti, liberation, which will make me understand the real nature of myself, is not a product of that action. Though the process to reach there is action, but the goal is not the effect of that action. That's what it means. we are always thinking that gaining knowledge is something that we don't have and we are doing it and gaining it outside. Actually, where is that knowledge? That knowledge is already in me. I know I am that Brahman, but so many things are covered because of my ignorance and delusion. What are we doing? We are removing the covers. Now, after the covers are removed, what remains? Is it gained? No, it is not gained. And if it is not gained, then how can it be result of action? Something that I don't have, I put efforts to gain, that can be result of action. But something that I have, rather, something that I am, if I come to know it, is it result of any action? It cannot be result of any action. Remember, preparation requires action. Nobody is saying no. Nobody is saying no. Let us take one more example. Suppose you want to sleep, not in the class, but at night you want to sleep. Then what? You are not getting sleep. Then you put efforts. What? Efforts for getting into that peaceful sleep. You do lots of things. First, you make sure that the bed is correct, and not disturbing you. The fan, AC, etc. is put in a proper speed or proper temperature. You make sure that no sound is coming from anywhere. Now remember, these all are actions. They are contributing towards your sleep, which is going to happen finally. But can you say that that sleep is result of these actions? No. This is preparation. Preparation is an action, of course. Preparation is required, no doubt. But finally what comes is not result of this preparation. And that's why you see how in Vedanta we say, you put efforts, but you will gain knowledge by His grace. So immediately what has happened, the knowledge is the result of His grace, not your action. You see? You see how it is explained? But still you have to put efforts. Even listening is an action. Even mentally reflecting is an action. Preparation for meditation is an action. When you are trying to quieten the mind is an action. When you are trying to maintain the thought is an action. But finally when the knowledge happens is not result of these actions. These are all preparations required, absolutely must preparation, I agree. But what we gain, that knowledge or that liberation, is not result of an action. Therefore we say we gain it by the grace of the Lord. I hope now that point is also clear. Next. In the verse 20, we understand what is Viveka. Doubt arises that if Brahman is there everywhere and in everything, then how can we call the objects to be unreal? T is real with respect to Brahman presence in it. If there is no existence and consciousness, it cannot be present. Then how can it be said to be mithya? Mithya word needs to be understood correctly. Mithya means something that doesn't have independent existence. I think I had explained it at that time also. Mithya means unreal. Unreal means something that appears to be there, but is not real. Why it is not real? Because it is not going to remain at all the three periods of time. Reality is only one, and that is Brahman. Now when you understand that reality is only one, then what are all these appearances? I am seeing everything, no objects I am seeing. What is that? That's why we are calling it as mithya. It is seen, but it is not real. Remember the example of mirage. On the sand, because of the sunlight, you see water. Is water there? Is not there. Now after gaining the knowledge also that it is not water, it is sand, you will still continue to see water, but you will know that it is not real. Okay. So That's why the objects are called as unreal or mithya. Mithya means those objects do not have their independent existence. Their existence is borrowed from the Brahman, which is of the nature of existence. Okay, Brahman alone has independent existence and therefore it alone is real. Everything else has borrowed existence from this Brahman, therefore everything else is unreal, it is mithya. Hope that is also clear. Next question. How do we deal with the guilt which is very disturbing with the commitment to the spiritual path more than before? I just explain what this, many times we get a feeling that, we have wasted so much of time. Why didn't we come to this spiritual path earlier? And even when now we are on this path, sometimes we, waste time somewhere else and then we are into guilt that, what am I doing? I am wasting, again and again. See, at all such times you have to give proper guidance to the mind. The intellect should guide the mind and say, no point in discussing about what happened in the past. And past, I mean the distant past as well as the immediate past. So even if today morning you could not get up early and you could not do sadhana, that's okay. I am not saying that it is okay to be done every day. No, not that way. But I am saying that there is no point in having a guilt that I did not do my sadhana, I did not do my sadhana, I did not do my sadhana. Why? Because then you are losing present also by thinking about past. Okay, I did not do sadhana, full stop. Let me do it now and go forward. Guilt needs to be removed with proper guidance that the intellect should do, saying that guilt is unnecessary. It is just going to take away more time and then I will be more guilty that I was guilty before and therefore I wasted more time. Don't get into that cycle at all. Just leave it. Okay, I came late on this spiritual part. Doesn't matter. Today I did not do sadhana. Fine. Today I did not do in the morning. Now I will do. Tomorrow I will not miss. Day after tomorrow. Every day I will not miss. Again thinking about the past will only waste your present. Also please understand, guilt is a what we say, demonstration of your purity. Everybody doesn't get guilt. Many people say, so what? Ego is so much that guilt doesn't arise. So what? So being, having guilt is better than having such attitude, but on the spiritual path, even that guilt is not required. I understand guilt is the most difficult emotion to get over. I understand that, but it has to be done. So the intellect has to guide the mind in all such occasions. Next question. When we say actions purify our mind, it is not mere action alone purifies our mind, but it is the attitude behind that action. Is this correct? Yes, it is correct. It is correct. Action by itself does not purify. Therefore, karma yoga purifies the mind, no? And karma yoga is an attitude behind action. So that is the meaning. Next. I understand the example you gave for unreal and example of impermanent. But if you take the unreal tea made by the small kid example, I am not able to get anything for unreal throughout my day when I am in situations. I can see many as impermanent things, but not for unreal. I understand that at the end both are unreal or impermanent. Please clarify my doubt. The example was given to show that when we understand something to be unreal, it is easy to give it up. That doesn't mean that you will start seeing things unreal. These are two different things. We were comparing the definitions of Tattvabodha and Vivek Chudamani, isn't it? Viveka in Tattvabodha is said as Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma Tadvyatiriktam Sarvam Anityam. That Brahman alone is permanent, everything else is impermanent. Whereas here he says that it is Brahman alone is real, everything else is unreal. So we were understanding why Shankaracharya ji is explaining like this, because when we call the world to be unreal, it becomes easy for us to drop it. Now whether we will see the world as unreal or not is a subjective thing. The question is asked in that context. If you are seeing everything as impermanent, that's okay. That is the first step. That you understand that the objects that you think are giving you joy are impermanent. That is the first step. But later on, you also understand that they are unreal. They don't have independent existence. Once you raise yourself to this understanding, giving up of longing for those pleasures becomes easy. That is the point. Next. Shloka 26. Why Acharya calls Vastu as Brahman? Confusing, why not Tat or Brahman? I don't know why Shankaracharya uses the word Vastu. Why is he not using the word Tat? One reason is because of the meter also, it might be. But also please understand, Vastu in Vedanta is used for Brahman only. Vastu Siddhir Vicharena is used in the same Vivek Chudamani only. Vastu Siddhi. Okay. So, Vastu is well-known word in Vedantic context for Brahman. So, if he uses also, that's okay. That much freedom we should give to the Acharya. Okay. That's why you see Tat or Brahman, etc. These words he can use, but that's the beauty of poetry, isn't it? That he is using different words to explain the same thing. Okay. Next. Please give practical tips on how to practice Shamadama Uparama. Like Sant Tukaram Maharaj said, how can your mind not remain in God? How is it possible to keep the mind in God all the time, even while transacting in the world? Practical. When you have a kid, many of you are parents, so it will be easier for you to understand the example. For a few months, the only thought in your mind is that of the kid, isn't it? You don't think about anything else. Even if you are doing something at home, even if you have gone out, that's the only thought that is there in your mind. Like that, there should be thought of God. See, keeping thought of God in mind and transacting in the world are not mutually exclusive events. Means what? They can coexist. Just as I transact with the world, but I always in the back of my mind understand that I am Brahmachari Ved Chaitanya, I am Brahmachari Ved Chaitanya, I am Brahmachari Ved Chaitanya. This thought is there or not? The back of your mind, that you are so and so, you are so and so. This thought always remains. Like that, the thought should change to I am God's. I belong to God. I belong to God. That is what should happen. When that happens, then all these questions will not be there. Now, question is, oh Swamiji, how will it happen? Always it starts from a simple thing. What is that? When I love something, I don't have to maintain the thought. So, our love for God should increase so that He occupies our life, our mind. That's the point. So, what is the process? What are the practical tips? Practical tips are same. Do japa, do puja, do dhyana. That is what you have to do. Slowly, 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 God will become center of your life, and slowly, slowly, God will become your life. This is called as bhakti sadhana. If you do bhakti sadhana, then all these things will happen. Spend quality and quantity time with God. You must have your Ishta Devata. You must have clear relationship with the Lord. Then you should spend quality and quantity time with the Lord. Then God will become center of your life. Center of your life means before everything you will remember God. You get a new TV, you will remember God. Oh, I have to, worship this. Thank you, God. Thank you. You are going out of the house, you will remember God. You are sitting for food, you will remember God. See, these are things which came to us through tradition. I remember in my house, etc., God is treated like family member. So when they sit for lunch, etc., they will chant the shloka, that is possible, Vada Nikavala Geta or Brahmarpanam, etc. But they will say, God, come, let us have lunch. That is their usual thing that they will say. When they are getting up, Moria, Moria, they will say, how are you saying this? It happens automatically. That's a habit that we have put. We are born in India, when we pick up phone also, we don't say hello. Now in Chinmay Mission we say Hari Om. In many houses they say Ram Ram, Jai Shri Ram. See, what is all these things? These are all the different ways of keeping that God in our mind. That is the point. Alright. So that's how we have to do. Increase your sadhana, increase the time that you spend with God, then automatically His thought will remain throughout the day. Next question. Having the attitude that this situation has come to me because of my prarabdha and I have to go through it, so I go through it without complaining. Is this considered as titiksha? Yes. Without complaining, if you do, it is considered as titiksha. Also, there is a very fine line between complaining about things and trying to discipline children to do the right thing, like keeping their toys and books in place, turning. How to draw balance in this without complaining? Complaining here, titiksha, is in the context of oneself. As a mother, as a father, if it is your duty to, discipline the children, it has to be done. It's not a complaint that you have against your children. It is for their benefit. So it's not against titiksha. Titiksha is sahanam sarva dukkhanam. Your dukkha's you have to go through. Your sorrows, etc., pains, little pinpricks you have to go through. That is what is called as titiksha. Okay, you have to, when you tell somebody to do something, is not complaining. If it is for their benefit, it is not complaining. But please also understand that to a certain age only you can do all these things. After that also you keep doing, then it is called complaining only. We want everybody else to follow the correct thing. And to our husband also, to our in-laws also we start telling. That is complaining. Why? Because by your telling, they are not going to be benefited. Probably they will listen, they will leave immediately. So titiksha is not against all these things. Titiksha is in your own context. Also, does it mean that we put up with someone else's wrong habits like uncleanliness because the only other alternative is to do all their work also, which is difficult to do without complaining? That's up to you. You see, first thing, please understand, by you telling or by you complaining, people are not going to change. That is first thing that we all must understand. We have no capacity to change anybody other than ourselves. Faster you understand this, happier you will be in your life. The more and more efforts we put to change people is going to land us in more and more sorrow. Why? Because they will not change. You will keep getting irritated because you are telling so many times and still they are not changing, and you will be in that cycle that you will tell, they will not follow, you will become angry, still they will not follow, then you will become more angry, still they will not follow, and you will go on and on. Drop it. If you think, tell once. If they don't listen, leave it. After that, never tell. No point only. So, titiksha also means what? Go through it. Whatever you can do, do. Very beautiful thing I had read somewhere that, oh God, give me 3 things. Capacity to change what I can, capacity to accept what I can't, and wisdom to understand what I can change and what I cannot change. God, first give me capacity to change whatever I can change. Second, give me acceptance to accept whatever I cannot change. And third, give me wisdom to understand what are the things that I can change and what are the things that I cannot change. Titiksha comes where the things that you cannot change, cheerfully accept. The second point is what is titiksha there. Also, even if we may not complain and accept the situation cheerfully, the thought will still cross the mind. What to do about that? Give that thought up. Because it's not going to help you. You will keep thinking the person doesn't even care. It is in your mind that you have told something and that person has not done. It's all wastage. It's all the ways by which mind is dissipating its energy. Put it in something higher, we will not care about all these lower things. See, when we are busy, for example, when there is a marriage function, etc., or some big thing is happening in the house, when we are busy with something that is there in front of us, we don't care about all these small things, isn't it? Somebody called me, somebody didn't call me. We don't say that what is this, 7 o'clock, you still have not come. We leave. Why? Because there is something else which is right now more important. Like that, keep the spiritual life more important and you will all lose interest in correcting all these things. It's because we have got lot of time, no? We do all these stupid things. When we are busy with something else, we will not do all these things. Go there. Next question. How do we bring our thoughts in God consciousness when mind craves for entertainment? How do we do that? Create that love for God. How much you love entertainment, that much you should love God. One very beautiful story is there of Tulsidas ji. It is said that Tulsidas ji, a great saint, poet and a devotee of Sri Rama who has written Ramcharitmanas, was very much attached to his wife. And one day she went to her parents' house. He could not bear that separation and it was raining and there were no vehicles, etc. available. So he swam through the river and in that night which is full of rain, he reached. Now the wife felt very awkward, Sometimes, when somebody shows that much love, you feel awkward because in front of your family, what will you show? That one day you have come home and this fellow cannot stay. So when she saw him, she was shocked. And she just said, the kind of desperation that you have to meet me, if that level of desperation you had to meet Bhagavan, by now you could have met him. It is said that that incident changed his life. And after that, he got that desperation for Sri Rama and he had darshan of Sri Rama. This change has to happen. How much we want entertainment? See, dosha drishti is one way of doing it, we have seen. Find faults, understand that the worldly enjoyment, entertainment is riddled with pain, is full of sorrow. We think that it is joy, but it is not joy. The more and more clarity we get, more and more disinterested we will become towards the world. Similarly, at the same time we do sadhana, our love for God will increase. Then automatically our mind will go towards God and not towards worldly entertainment. This is what has to happen. Next question. Faith. If the good and bad happenings in life are the result of our present karma and prarabdha karma, are the bad results inevitable or can they be negated by faith in God and sincere prayer? This is the question. See, the point is, prarabdha cannot be changed. But prarabdha is not a static thing which is decided in the beginning only. No, it is a dynamic thing. No, every single action that we put keep changing our prarabdha. What is the role of prostrating to Lord or prayer? Faith in Lord gives us strength to face that prarabdha, to face that situation. Will it change the situation? No, it may not change the situation, but it will give us strength to face that situation. When Arjuna had doubt, when Arjuna was confused that how can I kill my own people, Shri Krishna did not change the situation. Shri Krishna gave him knowledge by which he got the strength to face the situation. Faith in Lord, prayer to the Lord will give us that strength to go through the difficult times, to go through the prarabdha. Next, prayer. The ego is able to experience the bad effects due to presence of Brahman in us. How does praying with faith to God help cross over the bad effects of our past karmas? The Gita says the Brahman or God does not need our prayers. and whatever is happening is by inevitable karmic laws of Prakriti. Does prayer help change this? Just now I have explained, prayer may not, it may, because you see what is coming is result of all the actions, no? So if I pray, it is a positive action, so it will create different prarabdha. So of course prarabdha is being changed with every single action, and prayer has a role in it, but prayer will give additional thing to me, and that is the strength to face the difficult situations in life. That is the role of prayer. One more question on titiksha. With a family, practicing titiksha is tricky. All members may be going through the same discomfort which can be altered easily, yet will not say anything and learn to accept or adjust. One member decides to say something and is ready to make changes, the other, whether agreeable or not, will go through with it and learn to accept or adjust. Anticipate the other's needs, and it's a hit and miss situation. If it's a miss, we learn to adjust and accept. In all situations, a little forthrightness will ease situations. Instead, we walk around on tiptoes in thought, word and deed. This is all very well with people you are not attached to or have very little to do with them. With family, it is different. One wants to do well by each other, but living a life of accepting and adjusting, one never knows what one wants, let alone serve the other in accordance to their need. Makes for uncomfortable living. Please explain titiksha in this context. I agree that it is difficult. And that's why Grihastha is considered to be the top. Among the 4 ashramas, Grihastha is at the top. It is difficult. Nobody is saying no. But there is a way to do it. See, whatever you have said, every single thing is correct. That everybody may be going through the discomfort. Some people will continuously complain. Some people will accept it, don't want to change it. There will be third category who wants to change. So these 3 categories will always be there. 1, complaining but don't want to do anything. 2nd, accepting and therefore don't want to do anything. And 3rd category wants to do something and bring the change so that complaints will stop. All the 3 categories will exist in every family. Maybe in close family, distant family, that may be different, but they will be there. Now as seekers, you have to find balance in all this. As I told you, God has not given you responsibility to change everybody. Did He come to you and said in your ear that, go and change the world? No. You change. You start changing, automatically people around you will start changing. This is the secret. Propagation is not required. Demonstration is what is required. You don't have to tell them or change something outside. You start changing, automatically things around you will change. Often happens that when a strong person in the family has got spiritual base and therefore starts living like that, automatically people around them start to change. See, doesn't mean that immediately they will come and join the class, Vivek Chudamani, because you are also, no, it won't happen like that. But slowly things will start to change. It will happen. Allow it to happen in its own pace. Focus on changing yourself. Titiksha in this context is what? Things that I cannot change, learn to accept it cheerfully. That is the titiksha. It's not different from what is said in Vivek Chudamani. Okay, that's the way to do it. Next question. Causal body has ignorance and vasanas. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, Bhagavan says, Ajnanam tamasah phalam. My question is, in which way these are different? Please throw some light on this. When Bhagavan Shri Krishna says Ajnana tamasah phalam, Ajnanam tamasah phalam, there that Ajnana is not the Moola Ajnana of the self. It is the general ignorance about everything, which is the result of tamas in us. For example, when I am lazy, when I am forgetful, even about the world, I will not have proper knowledge. What is the text that we are studying? Which one? Which text? Vivek Chudamani. Oh, what happened now? We are talking about ignorance about something that we are doing or something that the basic things that we should know. But a person who is lazy, who is careless, who is forgetful will have ignorance of the world also. So tamas, ignorance in that context of 14th chapter means ignorance about the world. Basic ignorance that we all are. I don't know. We say no, I don't know. That I don't know is tamasah phalam. Whereas causal body, when we talk Karana Sharira etc., we are talking about Moola Ajnana. Moola Ajnana is what? Ignorance of the self. Who am I? That is what is causal body. This ignorance of the world is part of mind, and therefore it can be removed when the knowledge is gained. What is this? I don't know what is this. This is ignorance of some object. And then when I come to know it, that ignorance goes away. It is a function of mind. Whereas causal body, we are talking about Moola Ajnana, the basic ignorance of the self, of one's own nature. That's the difference. Few more questions are there. I think we need to have one more class for it. I thought I will complete, but no. It's okay. We will continue in the next session and we will complete the question answer. All right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.